You then discover it's spot terrorist and trained to fight terrorist. But the girls are mainly the good little spies. And, of course, then I have footage from 1998 in Hebron, Maryland, and other places in Police State 2000 of young children training to go in their parents' houses, can come back and report to regular Marine Corps. This is on video, what guns they own. And since then, we've seen drills in Arcadia, Iowa, you name it, that literally have mind control in them. The article says they're training with the local gun shop owner with the 670-something residents to go door-to-door looking for guns they're going to pre-hide in a drill for civil emergency and, you know, for domestic operations. Then they have the drill. I talk badly of it. And they say in the news, I'm a conspiracy theorist because I don't like it. Alan Watt, that's the new level of control where they admit we're right, but then say we're a conspiracy theorist for not liking it.
Yeah, they're using herd instinct, and they talk about this too, how most folk want to comply with government. Most people do, unfortunately. And for those who comply, whatever you do is against government is therefore bad, naturally. So goody two-shoes, and they're all trained to be goody two-shoes. They're trained at school, of course, in groupthink too, where there's no dissension. You all must come to a common agreement. And so everyone wants to be the same as everyone else. And government is good. They've watched all the movies. How many movies are out there to do with Homeland Security, stopping spies, all fast-paced dramas, Eagle Eye, all these kind of things. And they think this is fantastic, youngsters. And apart from that, though, too, there's a lot of pre-programming went on, predictive programming. Even in the 90s in Canada, you had a series here where youngsters got together and formed their own spy group and spied on all their neighbors and their parents.
When I go to the toy store, like half the toys are spies.
Yeah.
And spy on your parents. It's fun. You're a secret agent.
Mm-hmm. And this is the same technique that they use again.
By the way, almost all the toys, I never see them that say USA or anything. It's always UN, Defense Force. But the G.I. Joe guys don't have smiles on their faces now. They've all got like, looks.
Yeah. Well, Plato said it. He said that if something works in a generation, whatever formula works to make the culture go one way, as long as you know the formula, you can reintroduce it down the road. It will always work again. This is the same techniques the Soviets used with the Young Communist League, where parents daren't say anything in front of their children wearing their communist uniforms. Same in the Nazi system. Parents were terrified when their children joined the Hitler Youth, and they were told to spy on their parents and turn them in. It will always work with children, and they know this at the top. You know, they're the masters of war. They've been doing this for centuries. So it's a very dangerous time for everyone. I mean, I've had parents, you probably had it too, who've called me and have actually said that they're afraid of their child.
Oh, that's the system. And then they come in their black uniforms and sit around the kitchen table. I've read about this in every culture, and the parents grovel, and the kids get off on it. And kids now are told, I can report you for spanking me. I can report you for what you said. I saw a case a few years ago where they took a guy's kids because he said, don't trust the police in Round Rock, don't trust the government, and don't take shots if they tell you to. And it was on the news that, well, CPS has taken the children because the police say, he said, don't trust them. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was on the news. Yeah. And, boy, I later heard those kids were absolutely in hell because once they were with the little pedophile rapers, they found out, you know, people find out once they get in the clutches. You thought mommy and daddy were bad? Now you're going to meet a pot-bellied rapist.
Yes. And George Orwell also put this in 1984, his book and the movie, where the youngsters are dressed up with little outfits, and they're maybe around 7 years old, and they're saying to Winston, oh, you're a thought criminal. You're a thought criminal, aren't you? We're going to report you. And so they go around terrifying everyone who's an adult. And this is the way they're getting raised in school. And so, see, America itself, and every other country too, is divided in many different sections, and part of it is between young children and even older children. They've got a different indoctrination. So there's about 3 or 4 indoctrinations on the go at the same time with different generations, and that's part of the problem. But it's been orchestrated this way, and it's all managed this way by those who oversee the whole system. So,
well, take the TSA pedophile training force. I mean, all these psychologists have come out and said, oh, it's training kids. That's how a pedophile will touch to test to see if the kid will go along with it. This is totally screwing kids up. The grabbing the women's breasts, going in the pants, radiating everybody. And, of course, we knew this was the plan, but now they're going on the streets, the highways. It's clearly a program to train us. We have absolutely no rights, and the state's going to put their hands on us. And now the cops take the blood. That's training them for medicalization. I remember a decade ago, they couldn't get the cops to carry out forced inoculation. So they said, we'll get them to do other medical stuff first to create that. So now they're going to be medical enforcement officers.
Yes. And they've even had that in science fiction movies for the last 42 years, this would come, because these guys are all picked, of course, for predictive programming too. But we're in it now, and you're under martial law, and they're training the public, just training the public. That's all it is, into complete obedience and fear of reprisal if you don't comply. It's incredible. Even the situations in the main stations, the train stations in New York, places like that, with the screens everywhere, running these little promos about Homeland Security, and we have 200 agents right now amongst you right now in this place. And you
only trust government, only telescreens at Walmart and Mall of America and town squares, like out of a dystopic nightmare science fiction movie. Watch everyone, only trust us. What's your neighbor doing? Your children being trained.
That's right.
Little discount credit cards given to them. Oh, report on your parents. And I have those promos. I've played them. Mm-hmm. And they're doing it all with a completely, totally straight face to everybody. It is so incredibly diabolical, and they're pushing it into overdrive right now. Why is that?
They're pushing it overdrive because they have talked about more riots, but they have further plans to crash us again economically, and to get us down to the proper level of austerity. You see. You still have it too good right now. You can still afford an ice cream once in a while. So you got to come down much further, because they want all that extra cash that you spend on yourself. But
more importantly, they can buy you. Once you're totally broke back in your hierarchy of needs and are starving, you'll do whatever you're told.
Food is a weapon, of course, and I've said that at the Ministry of Agriculture of the United Nations, that they're willing to use. Actually, the UN has used food as a weapon. That's with embargoes on
That's
Iran.
Memorandum 200. The Onion came out this week and said it's great, let's kill billions of people, and let's mow down Africans. But in the real world, the New York Times was reporting, hey, the UN's mowing down people for their land. It's for the earth. Maybe it's good.
That's right.
Mow them down. It's trendy.
They're really going after the farmers, small farmers. There's very few small farmers left, really. It's all big agri-farm. Five corporations run the world, all the food supply. And in Australia, they can't even allow them. They're creating national parks, and they're telling the farmers to get their cattle off them. So there's going to be no meat for the ordinary folk in the future. That is the plan too, is vegetarian society.
Oh no, I have a news out of England today where they're teaching kids they're going to eat bugs for protein.
That's right. Oh yeah, they've been doing that for 4 or 5 years, and the EU has allocated the 3 billion euros to the study of it, or 3 million euros to the study of eating crickets and things. And then you have the Hollywood stars. There's one major Hollywood star who says her children just love these cricket sandwiches, and they always find someone, because the people follow the stars, right? So this is the future, is complete and utter austerity. And then you go back 2 or 3 years and you find the head of the Green Party who said, oh, everybody obeyed in World War II. They had very little money. They didn't mind.
We're going to have carbon rationing cards, and now they're announcing them.
That's it. So I said this in 2001. That's what you'll see. Everything that goes with warfare, you will see at home, including refugees eventually being moved around the country.
Yeah, and it'll be, we got to put these homeless people in the sports stadium. That's already begun in Tampa and in Northern California, Central California, in Sacramento. You can't have homeless out at night. They got to be locked up. And, we got to arrest the dissenters. They're causing problems.
Yes. And so they are ready for it's not really a planned rebellions they're ready for. They don't believe they're going to be a planned rebellion, But they do believe there'll be spontaneous riots as people who are at the bottom of the ladder get hit even harder.
And then they'll use them to say, see, we got to raise the taxes on the rich. That means somebody making $50,000 a year or $100,000 to pay them. And then all the money siphoned off to the foreign banks. But the unwashed masses don't know because they literally, and I've talked to some of the general public, they can't talk now. The language is gone.
Yeah.
And if you bring up a serious issue, they begin to laugh at you with a pre-programmed response.
That's right. Every response that you see from anyone out there has been either in a comedy or a movie or some soap or whatever.
No, they're not their own person. They live in a playland of Arrested Development that the psych warfare chief talk about, and they'll repeat something that they think makes them look blingy. Instead of actually being intelligent, it's just all a big fake. And like the yuppies watch the news that's propaganda and repeat it like they're real smart. Oh, yes. Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's what Brzezinski said. The public will be unable to reason for themselves. All they'll be able to do is to repeat last night's news to each other. And that was in the 70s he said that. So we're here. We've been here for a while.
And men try to impress each other on talk radio about how upset they get for their team. And they just sit around like men 5,000 years ago would talk about defending their village with the same concern, against marauders. It's just like, yeah, man, I tell you, we got to have the Giants win, or I don't know what I'll do. Meanwhile, their kids being fed GMO, they're going to be sterile. They're going to get cancer at age 17, probably. Total death, and the numbers are increasing. We're being murdered. And you talk to that man, they'll look at you and just laugh because you're not manly. You're not manly, Alan Watt. You don't know how to stand around and go, ooh, football, ooh.
Yeah.
While poison's put in our water and food. I mean, you're just not a man.
That's it. That's it. They're all conditioned. But they will obey government. They will obey government.
These guys will bug their eyes out at you and have their shirts cut off. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, folks. The point is, you see them in the grocery store or whatever, walking around trying to act all sinister. You see these tough guys, when they see a cop, they look like a dog, like groveling, almost rolling. Government. They're just total cowards.
Yeah, they are. And again, they can only act as a mob, So the problem is, as I say, though, that the big boys are ready for all of this. They've planned it. They probably will even set off the riots themselves, spark them off when it's time. And that's the usual thing. They don't wait until people do something. They generally do it because they have the plans and timetables. And then, of course, they'll turn around and say, see, there are crazy folk amongst you out there who are going to riot, and so we need even more security.
Well, in England, which we'd all predicted, the police stood down, and it turned out a lot of those riots were organized, pushed by the media.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And mind you, too, see, every organization is infiltrated. And in every area, they have their instigators living amongst them, by the way. And they go out and drink with them, all these young guys.
Hey, before I knew how bad it was, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, a few times I worked with a few people locally who later I found out were sabotaging, lying, doing everything you could imagine. And it was, I mean, it had to be professionally being done. And you're just like, my God, you people are everywhere.
Well, one case came up in Montreal recently. It was a top policeman. It was a policeman, but he was one of the 3 who had access to all the informers to do with what they call the local mafia in Montreal. It's not an Italian mafia, but it is a mafia. And he was going to turn over 2,000 informant spies in Montreal alone to the mafia. 2,000. And I've told people for years, you don't realize that since the 50s, they've had these people placed in...
It's now admitted. The cable person, the phone person, everyone. And I've noticed this. Usually they end up being a listener, but a lot of times you can just tell when the person doesn't know whose house they're at and I get home later or whatever. And, I mean, you can just see that whoever's in your house, they're casing it, they're looking at things. You can see it's a power trip that they're watching you. And it's on record they are, but, I mean, nurses at hospitals, everywhere. They get off on the little informerness, and they get little cuts of juicy, too. They get a little money.
That's right, or a bit of promotion at work or something. But, as I say, this technique is very old, and it works very, very well. They know how to bring countries down. They did it with East Germany, too. They've had so much experience, and everything's documented. It's like a massive laboratory when they do these experiments.
Well, no, Disney World, I was reading, now calls its parks a laboratory. And it turns out they taught the Department of Defense how to lock a city down. Because think about it. You're getting in, you're being scanned, you're being controlled, you're being surveilled. Disney systems are the model of actual what'll be gulags.
Yes, and they had the wristbands too, with the chips in them to get inside.
And biometric scanning, and you're under laboratory scanning.